Hey g'day guys, it's Adam from VideoShowMeHow, and in today's video we're going to be continuing our build on our 2021 D-Max, and more specifically our 12 volt semi-permanent solution that we've got going on. If you haven't seen that other video, check it out before this one. Today though, we're going to be installing this guy, the TJM vehicle mount heavy duty air compressor. Let's get started. So the last video, you would have seen the install of our lithium battery, the 135, but then also our Red Arc BC DC unit there. It's been going great guns. The Red Arc's a great product, and probably the only other thing we've done really is installed our little status LED here. For those sort of details, check out the Red Arc install video up the top. But today we're installing our TJM air compressor so that we have that ready to roll in here as well. Really looking forward to it. So let's get all the gear that's needed to install this guy. Now this thing is a bit of a beast. It is TJM's new vehicle mount heavy duty performance range. It is a true 86 litres per minute. Probably the coolest thing with this guy is that it is a 100% duty cycle, which means this thing is literally going to continue to run. So that's pretty awesome. And here it is. You can see that it is a bit of a beast. It is much bigger than any of the old units that you see. It is a single piston design. Like you can see, it is pretty fancy. It is pretty cool. Now for us, it is going to live down in here. And that was the other reason we went with this guy, is that it is compact and I can actually get it in the box. The next step really, now that we have a home for it, is to fit all of the fittings and what have you that come with and get everything configured so that we can final mount it. Now this part is going to be very much dependent on what sort of situation you're going to be having this guy installed in. For us, it's going to be all about getting this thing set up so that we can use it to pump up our tires. Now the bits that you're going to need are your actual pressure switch, which is this one here. We are going to be using some of these Nitto style fittings. We're going to have a chuck sitting on the outside here so that when you go in from over the top to be able to plug this in, we can just use the switch that comes with from TJM. We can just flick that one on, turns the compressor on so that it charges. The little air tank in here will get filled up and ready to roll. Then it's just a matter of grabbing our hose, plugging it into the inside, and we're away. We're ready to pump up our tires. I have some hose here, some air hose I may have stolen from another unit that failed from a brand I shall not mention. And we are also going to need our TJM air filter, which goes on the end here as well. So we need one of those. And finally, we're going to need one of these connections, because we're going to need a barb in one end of our hose and then barb in the other. So you can get these from your local hardware, and as usual, down in the description of this video, I'll put links to where you can buy all of this kit online. And then of course, with any sort of plumbing or air tools, you want to get some good quality tape, some sealant tape, and use that around anything that's got a thread so that you're getting a nice leak-proof connection. Now these are a 6mm. Grab your 14mm. TJM specify 20 newton meters on your quarter and 15 newton meters on the eighth, so nothing too crazy. Now once you've got this guy all installed, the next step is to grab your pressure switch. And same thing here, you really don't want to over tighten these, particularly with this one being a sensor. Give it a little bit of a nip up and you should be all good. Okay, so we have our barb fitting here for our hose. We have our pressure switch there ready to rock and roll for our wiring. The only other thing is left to install is on the front here. This guy needs to get pulled out because we need to put in, the second I can find it, here it is. We need to install our air filter, and that goes in just there. Like that, there we are. So the next step is to mount this guy into there. And the easiest way for us to be able to do that, I think, is going to be actually to remove this base itself. There's 3 screws on either side, 3 Allen keys, and then that way we can locate the actual bracket itself where we want it underneath here. We can bolt that down and then reinstall the actual compressor itself. And then our next step now is to start putting these bits and bobs together. So this is our pressure switch, and that's going to be going together with our actual cable for this over to the sort of the battery side on our backboard here. But before we do that, let's get our hose in. This is going to be our air hose that basically just goes up to this section here. So it's going to be a short run. It's just a matter of measuring your distance, what you need there, drill your hole where you want your coupler to be set up. I'm going to be putting the switch on the front. That's going to sit on the front of the box right there, because next to that will be our Nava 12 volt accessory. So that sort of is going to sit in there. We'll have our switch here on the side. It's going to look tip top and hunky dory. So let's get the hose installed. So once you have your hole all drilled, there's a couple of different options. You can go with this style. However, you're going to need to have a barb on the end unless your hose has one of these, or the opposite end, has a coupler connection there. I don't really want that. I want to have this permanently connected to that coupler on the outside of the box. So I'm going to be using, or you can go to one of these style. With these, you can actually undo the top section from the coupler section and then jam that in the box itself. So just throwing that away. So that's what I'm going to be going with. There we go. That's what we should be looking like, a nice solid connection and able to accept our hose eventually. Maybe one with another end, but certainly when we're pumping up, there we go. Pretty cool. And then on the inside, we just need to connect our second part of the hose. We've got it all cut to size. You can see our threaded barb on the inside there. So it's just a matter of connecting this guy. Don't forget to put your hose clamp on first and put it all in and tighten it down. Right, so from here, a couple of things left to do. We need to get our vent, in this case, because we're installing it in a sealed box, we need some air to feed the air compressor, this side of things, the inlet, for it to blow through here, down and out. So I'm actually going to be putting this up the top, lopping a bit of this off, making it a bit shorter, and then basically just installing it on the side there so it can draw some fresh air in while keeping that inlet as high as possible. And then the only other hole that we need to drill is on the front here, because that's where we're going to be installing our actual switch. So that's going to live right about there. And there we go. We have our switch nice and installed, and it's ready to go to plug in our harness there from the back straight across. So that's that one. And then the vent itself, pop riveted on. There is a video on the channel on how to pop rivet. If not sure about that or you're keen to learn more about it, check out that video if you're interested. And the only thing we've got left to do is the wiring. And I know what you're thinking. If you've done this before, you go, oh my God, what are you talking about? That is the longest part. That's the hardest part. But the TJM compressor has everything ready to go. So we just want to get our colored wires to our colored wires and connect the two little looms together. And then we can sort of start laying everything into our box so we can start working out what is going to go where. It's just important to remember that you really want to make sure you're routing everything away from anything hot. So namely, particularly this end of the compressor, but definitely leaving as much air gap all the way around as you can. So I'm going to be running the wires down in the corners. So mount the relay, then our red and our blue are our pressure switch. So I can clip them into place. These guys we can tape up, put away, because we don't have the two solenoids here. This is what will drive your lockers off the relays. This guy is going to be what actually powers the thing itself. So you can see that we have our actual compressor power lead there, so it's just a matter of joining those guys together. Then on our secondary harness, we've got a whole bunch of connections. Bear in mind, these ones here, the big massive amount of clump there for your front and rear locker switches, we're not going to be using those, so they're just going to get taped up. And then these guys go into our actual switch here, so they're pretty straightforward. The black ones, our earths, these two here, go together. So on the one side of the switch, there's only two prongs, they go into that. And then you have, going from the bottom up, you have your straight red, then your red and your yellow, and then your blue. And make sure everything is routed right around the compressor itself, because this guy's going to get hot, particularly there, and the hose itself. So just be mindful of that. Here's our fuse distribution block all set up, and that's pretty cool because it has some little LEDs as well. So the behavior is, if that's out, we have our switch here. What's going to happen is it's going to tell you, hey, you've got a fuse blown now. In this case, I've taken the fuse out, but when it senses there's a fault, it will light up and tell you what fuse needs replacing. So that's pretty cool. They're pretty awesome. But other than that, it is good to go. So when we do this, it should turn on. So that's pretty awesome. That's got its little tank in there. That's that, I think it's a 0.25 litre tank in there. We've got no leaks, no hissing sound, so that's awesome. And what we should see now, if we just get a little hose here, we should have air. There we go. Right, so we're pretty well done here. The only other thing is we've got air coming in through our vent straight in to the back here, but we don't have air going out. And when this guy is shut, it's going to be relatively sealed as well. So we definitely want some way of getting the air back out. So that's where we're going to use one of these guys. This is actually well, it's a 12 volt fan, but it's actually a server fan as well. So these things blow like crazy, and I think they're up to about 7,200 RPM. And it is going to be perfect for what we're trying to do here, where we want something that's going to really pull air in through our vent across our actual compressor, particularly when the compressor fan kicks in, when the thing gets too hot. We want something to really exhaust that air back out of our all-in-one box. So that's the go with this guy. It's going to live down in there, so this may be something that you don't need, but if you are putting in an all-in-one box, I would strongly recommend considering sort of your ventilation in and then your ventilation out. So the next step really is to install one of these guys, hole, and then jigsaw it out so we've got the perfect size for this guy. I'm going to be using some grills, so that will sit on the front just to keep little fingers away, so you're not going to be doing any damage there. We've got a whole bunch of these, so I'm going to be putting some on the outside, one on the outside, and then one on the inside on the fan itself as well, just in case any sort of wires or anything get crazy. That's going to give you a good level of protection there. We're just going to be leveraging our switch itself using the earth, but then also the switched power, so when that turns on, it will turn this guy on as well. And there we go, we have our exhaust fan all mounted there. I whacked on the accessory panel as well. We've got a couple of USBs there, as well as a regular power, regular cigarette lighter plug there. So what should happen when we turn our compressor on, this should fill its boots full of pressure, and then this will switch on as well. There we go. So it is sucking air in our vent through the compressor itself and getting blasted straight out. So if we close this up, this is kind of how it'll work. So this could be basically in the back of the D-Max. That's how that's going to work. We'd switch it on and plug our air hose in. This one we can use as a bit of a demo, but basically we should have pressure here now, which we do. And there we go, we're pumping up our tyres. Compressor's getting warm in there, but we're sucking in the cool air from the back there and blasting out the hot stuff straight out the front. So there you go. And when we turn off the compressor, it'll turn off the fan as well. And this is how it would work in the real life, as it were. Up doing a beach run earlier on today. So I've given this a solid test and it works great guns. Really stoked with how it's all come together. So here we go. Here's our box in situ, as it were. Compressor mount and our switches, etc. So how you would use this, you've got your compressor in there. Oh no, we have a flat tire, or we've been up the beach, we'll let the tires down. That's probably a little bit low. Oh yeah, new boots, pretty cool. So what you do, we come over here, storing in our little boxes here Fun fact, when you have a fat fridge, they can't swing all the way around, but you know, it is what it is. I'm just storing my compressor gear. So I have the little pumpy thing and also the hose. So grab them out of there, bring them over here, and then it's just a matter of putting the bits together, getting our actual fitting, clicking it into place, turning the compressor on, gets up to pressure. There's our fan blasting away, keeping everything nice and cool. And then on our other end, we just get our fitting, connect it all up, and we're good to go. And there we go, all pumped up, simple as that. Over the top here, you can see we're still connected. It's not too hot at all. You can feel our fan working there. As you can hear, it blows a heap of air, that thing, and it's got that protector, which is good, so anything bashing around or anything, it's not going to be getting in the way. But other than that, really stoked with how this worked. That worked an absolute treat up the beach. We ended up pumping 4 of these tyres. These are a 285 65 18. We are going to be doing a test of this as well, an actual sort of time test to see just how quickly the TJM unit does work and how quickly it can pump up tyres. I'm going to do a bit of a comparison between the TJM unit and the ARB single compressor, being that they're both singles. We're going to do a bit of a comparison video coming up. So by the time you're watching this, it could be up the top there. Check it out if it hasn't. If it's not out by the time you watch this, make sure you hit the old subscribe button so that you get the notification when that video comes out. So there you go, guys. That is the install of the TJM onboard air compressor. Probably next we're going to be installing the Victron battery monitor. That's probably going to live probably over that side, I would say. We still have some extra sockets that we need some wiring, so that video is coming out as well around adding a bunch of accessories to a box like this. For the D-Max itself, we will be having some 12-volt plugs, USB and normal cigarette lighters there, and then also over on this side as well, so that there's going to be plenty of power. We're putting some lights up, so that'll keep the tub nicely illuminated with a separate switch. So lots of other things coming. So if you're not subscribed, check it out. Hit the old button there so you can see that content when it is released. If you're super keen to support the channel, you can join the membership, the channel membership. We've got some merch in the works, some stickers, that sort of jazz. So check that out in the join button below if you are interested. If you're keen for other D-Max content, make sure you check out the playlist on the channel. I think this is like video 14 or something like that. So there's stacks of other D-Max content that's on there and heaps more coming soon. Because we've got the new boots, we've got some suspension that is being researched right now. Hopefully that comes through soon. Front bars, side step, we've got lighting and what have you that's going on here as well. And some simple stuff as well, like LED interior lights and what have you. So make sure you check that out and subscribe to see that new content as it's released. But as always, guys, I hope that you have an amazing day and I will see you in the next video. Cheers, guys.